Jason, thank you so much for joining us and taking time out of your night to speak with Living for Zachary about your troop. Can you tell me a little bit about Troop 1299 and your role in it?
So Troop 1299 is a Boy Scout troop that is chartered by the Sunrise Rotary Club in Allen. The troop was formed in December of 1999, which is why it's called 1299. And it started off as a very small troop, right? So there's a group of dads wanting to offer the Boy Scouting program. They approach the church. So our original charter organization was Sun Creek United Methodist Church in Allen. So they approached the church to see about charting a Boy Scout troop, and they gladly accepted. And so the troop was then born at that time of December of 1999. Since then, the troop has grown from the original founding members of, I believe, around 15 to 20 to our roster today holds around over 100. And so that typically means we have around 60 to 70 active scouts and then their parents as scouters to work with them.
For those who might not be too familiar with scouting, what are some of the values that your troop espouses and tries to instill in your scouts? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So, I mean, I think why am I so passionate involved with scouting for such a long time is I believe it's what teaches our young people how to be functioning and productive adults, successful adults. And so we call this learning life skills. And what the troop really attests to, and what drew me to the troop way back when, is we create this environment we call a safe place to fail. And that's a Boy Scouting principle, but I can tell you that Troop 1299 follows that pretty precisely. And what you see is these young guys develop. You see them first become quite shy, not really confident about their what they can do and what they can accomplish. And you watch them morph into these wonderful, functioning, high functioning adults, right? So we see 15, 16-year-olds being the leader of a troop that's a 50 to 60 people, right? It's a huge task, a big responsibility. And you watch these guys learn from first barely being able to tie their shoes and know where their water bottle is, to then directing the entire troop at large, going to summer camps, planning these scouting events, learning how to cook for themselves. So we see a lot of burnt pancakes and messed up bacon. And we just encourage them to find a solution. So it's a really great experience where we let these young guys try things out and gain the confidence when they fail, learning how to pick themselves back up and try again and be successful at it. So I think that is one of the best things about scouting. And that's what I'm really proud about Troop 1299 is creating this environment for a safe place to fail, as well as we call it a boy-led troop, which means our scouts make all the decisions. As an adult advisor, my job is to just make sure nobody gets hurt. And we're thinking about all the different parameters and consequences of our decisions. But by and large, for the most part, the scouts make all of the choices. Where are we going to camp? When are we going to wake up? When are we going to eat? How are we going to get there? So on and so forth. And that's what creates all of those learning opportunities along the way. So that is something that our troop does, I think, very well. And one of the things that I think is most beneficial for scouting.
I want to go back in time a little bit. Prior to 2015, had your troop ever had an AED on hand? Was that something that you had before? Or was 2015 the first time that you really decided, okay, this is a device that we need to have with us?
So yeah, in 2015, we became aware of the program for Living for Zachary. And one of our assistant scoutmasters, who was also a scoutmaster prior, kind of approached this subject at a committee meeting. And we all thought that was a fantastic idea because as part of Boy Scouts, when you go to high adventure, you have to take what's called wilderness first aid training. And part of that training is being CPR certified and learning how to use an AED. And our troop has the culture of the Boy Scout requirement is only 2 adults going on the high adventure trip needs to be trained. But our troop has a culture of making sure every adult has wilderness first aid training. So as a kind of a culmination of learning about the program from Living for Zachary, in that year in 2015, the troop was going to Philmont. And so a lot of the dads needed to get this wilderness first aid training. So those two kind of came together about having the AED for the troop, and also learning the importance of being prepared and having that training certification.
So that AED traveled with you all over the country, 7 years, never needed to be used in that time, right?
No, no. It has been with us for quite some time, as well as it was recently updated. And I believe it was 2019 or 2020 when we refurbished or replaced the battery in the pads.
And thank goodness you did.
Yes, yeah.
So take me back to this past July 2022. I really want to hear from you just that day, where your troop found yourself and how you found yourselves in the middle of this cardiac emergency that you could be of assistance. Share with me all the details.
July 6th, we had left, and we were on a chartered bus. And so the bus stopped and had multiple drivers. And so we were able to get to Yellowstone on the next day, like late Thursday, for us to set up camp. And so we spent a lot of Friday and Saturday kind of just getting acclimated and going around the parks. We went to the south portion and the west portion, the east portion. So we had done like the big things like Old Faithful and the Painted Springs and things like that. And so by that time, we had kind of spent a lot of time in the park, and we were getting ready to go to summer camp at Camp Buffalo Bill on Sunday. So we go to camp on Sunday, we check in, and we go about the normal summer camp regiment of scouts getting their merit badge classes, knowing where they're going. But the added benefit at Camp Buffalo Bill is they have a day off on Wednesday. So that would be July 13th. And because Yellowstone is such a huge attraction and a big park, what they encourage scouts to do is people take their troop to go to Yellowstone. And so we had our chartered bus. Our chartered bus was with us the whole time, and so it came and picked us up that Wednesday morning. And we decided to go to the northern portion of the park because that's an area we hadn't been to yet, and that way we could complete the whole viewing of the park. And we were on the lookout for a moose because we hadn't seen a moose. We had seen a bear and all kinds of other stuff, but we had not seen a moose. So we wanted to see if we maybe could see one of those. So that Wednesday, we spent some time in the northern portion, and we were making our way up after lunch to the Canyon Park area, to that Washburn Lookout, I believe is what it was called. And it had been raining, and so I was making my way to the front of the bus to talk to Mr. Ellison about what we were going to do. We were making some decisions. Okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to take a look here. We're going to go to the trading post because the scouts always like to go to the trading post to get ice cream and whatever else. So we were making our decisions about that. And so we pull up to this area at this Washburn Park or overlook, and someone comes running immediately to the bus saying, "Is there a doctor on board? Is there a doctor on board?" And we're like, no, there's not. And so we really didn't kind of get a sense of what was going on other than somebody was looking for a doctor. So I had gotten off the bus with a few other adults and just to kind of survey the situation. And I started to walk down to what I saw was some commotion. And out of the corner of my eye, I started seeing chest compressions. So I started seeing someone start to do chest compressions. And then immediately I was like, okay, we've got to do something. And so Mr. Ellison was in the front, and so he turned to the bus driver and said, "Call 911." And if you've ever been to Yellowstone, you would know that cell phone signal is not a thing there. It's very difficult to get a cell phone signal. And it just so happened that the bus driver was parked at the very right spot. She had very limited amount of power left on her phone, but she had just enough signal and power to make that 911 call. And so while she was calling, I went and ran and grabbed the AED, which was in the front seat, and started running towards the situation. When we arrived there, it was a young lady, and she was not doing well. They had started chest compressions maybe a minute or two before we had arrived. And so we got there and said, we have an AED. And we opened it, we turned it on, we grabbed the scissors, we got the pads out, and we got everything in place for the AED to work its magic. We hit the start button, it said analyze, and it said shock recommended, and it delivered a shock. And then it said resuming chest compressions. And so that went on for the second cycle. And after that, the AD said shock not recommended. So again, we were just continuing chest compressions, and the AD was going through its cycles of saying not recommended. So it was just amazing to see. It was just like everything you see in the trainings, but it was very surreal to see in the first hand, of everything going on. So everything kind of went like you would expect it to after having taken the training, is give CPR, hook up the AED. The AED works its magic. First responders started to arrive. So like some of the park services started to arrive maybe after the third cycle, and then EMS probably arrived after about the fifth cycle of it checking to see if anything was needed. EMS arrived and took over to the scene. The woman did wake up, right? So she did resuscitate. So she was kind of, disoriented, but she did revive. And so the EMS was able to talk to her and things of that. And so they were able to put her on into the vehicle and stabilize her. And I believe they helicoptered her out of the park. But this all happened very fast. And like I said, it was everything happening at the right time. As we showed up with the bus, we had the AED on board. The 911 call went through because people were running, trying to find a park ranger, right? We're in the middle of the park, but it's not necessarily very close to any kind of station per se. So people are directing traffic. People from our troop were helping direct traffic. Someone had found some of the park rangers. They had showed up, and then the bus driver, like I said, had made the contact to 911. So it was just a very surreal moment.
How did you feel in the moments and hours after this had occurred? I'm sure in the moment you're so caught up in just making sure that everything happens. How did it feel after? And how was it talking to the scouts after?
Yeah, it was, it's very, and you have a lot of adrenaline at that point, right? And so there's a lot of things going through your mind. I think right after the events happen, and because the scouts at this time were still on the bus, right? So we did not unload the bus. As soon as, like I said, a few adults got off the bus, everyone else stayed on the bus except those adults that originally got off. So we went back to the bus, and I had a conversation to them about what it is to be prepared. And that is the Boy Scout motto, is to be prepared. And that means we are prepared for life. We are prepared for any kind of situation, whether that's a medical situation, whether that's to go hiking and have fun. It doesn't matter what it is. A Boy Scout is prepared for whatever situation life presents them. And so I use that as a teachable moment to kind of explain to the guys, like, look, some of you are in first aid merit badge at summer camp, right? Pay attention to what they're teaching you, because you can help save a life, right? All you have to know is what this magic box is and what it looks like. And all you have to do is open it up and turn it on, and it will tell you what to do. But having an idea of what that process is before you get into those situations, right? Just lets you keep that clear head, that calm, collected mind. And oh my goodness, what a great thing it was for us to be there and pull into that situation, and be able to help, because that's what we're supposed to do as Boy Scouts, or as good contributing members of society. And so I was just happy that we could be there, because the young lady, I heard them talk about, she didn't have any prior symptoms. I think they were just walking and she just collapsed. They weren't doing anything strenuous other than looking at the outlook, and
Wow.
she didn't have any pre-existing conditions. So it was just, like I said, it's just, like you said, a bunch of little miracles happening all in sequence.
From your experience, what difference did that AED make in the situation that you were in?
I mean, it was a lifesaver. I mean, even the EMS, when we were there, and they were saying, well, whose AED is this? And they said, it's ours. And they said, you very well probably saved this young lady's life. You can't put a price on preparedness. You can't put a price on life. And having that AED not only gives you that opportunity to help people in your troop and whatever organization, whatever function you're doing, but also in our situation, right, we were able to share that that AED is, an AED from Texas made its way all the way up to Wyoming and helped somebody I don't even know from where, right?
Right.
And it just kind of tells that story of how important it is to have that equipment just with you at that moment. As a scoutmaster, I spend a lot of time talking about legacy. I taught the boys quite a bit about, a lot of people say things, but it's about what you do that makes a difference. And everyone has an opportunity to make a mark on this world, right? And sometimes you don't even know how big that mark is until later on. So I talk to scouts about how a simple hello can make a difference in somebody's day. Encouraging someone to join scouting could give someone the opportunity or skills to maybe save someone's life or become a fantastic professional in whatever career they decide to do. So you never really know how your actions can play out, but you need to do something, right? Just words do not count. Words are great, but everyone has words. You need to have actions. And so I think the Living for Zachary movement, being able to connect to the Boy Scouts of an organization that's mantra is to be prepared, it really couldn't be any better of a combination of Zachary's legacy, right? Being able to go out there and teach people the importance of heart health and learning how to use these instruments, to just magnifying and being able to help and save other people's lives. I mean, our story is not the first or only story of how Zachary's legacy has positively impacted other people permanently. And I think that is just a magical and magnificent story that out of tragedy, something beautiful can happen. And that legacy of Zachary can live on throughout for multiple people's lifetime. And that is something that, I encourage the scouts to create whatever your legacy is, right? It won't be obvious to you when you're doing it, right? But be out there and be part of people's lives so that you can make a difference and that you can have a positive impact on society.
We talk about legacy at Living for Zachary all the time as well. And so it's so momentous that you mentioned that. And we're just so proud that now Troop 1299 is part of Zach's legacy. We are so grateful for your troop's actions and just the values that you espouse and what you're teaching these young people who are coming up. And we know that they're going to be the next generation of helpers. And so we're really grateful for your troop and everything you've done and the impact that you had on a young woman's life and on an entire family. I'm sure we may not know exactly who she is or where she is right now, but we know that you made a difference.